Transforming bracket!
What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is obviously my review for the 2012 film Lincoln. So Lincoln turns 10 this year, which gave me a pretty darn good excuse to finally sit down and review this film for you guys. It is a film that, for those of you who don't know, it is directed by Steven Spielberg, the same director that gave us Jaws, Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, and a slew of other films. One of the greatest directors of all time, and I have actually ranked his films. You guys can check that out on my director playlist down below. But again, this is a film that turns 10 this year, and it's got a stacked cast. I would spend 10 minutes just talking about the cast alone because it is a cast that is filled to the brink with talent. But I will say this is a film that stars Daniel Day-Lewis, Sally Field, Tommy Lee Jones, and many, many, many others. It's a film that is about the attempt of Lincoln trying to pass the 13th Amendment during the year 1865. And it is a film that I have a very personal history with, and I will get into that in a second. But I will say this, right off the bat, highly, highly recommend you guys check out Lincoln. Now, that out of the way, I will say this. Lincoln is a film that, as I mentioned, is very dear to me. I have a very personal history with this film. I saw it back in November of 2012, 10 years ago. And it's a film that when I saw it in theaters, I knew that I was experiencing something special. Because at that point in time, I wasn't too familiar with filmmaking. Like, it was something that I watched quite a bit of movies for sure, but I never really noticed about camera work. I think prior to this movie, I did notice, like, Skyfall, which I wanted to mention. Skyfall is also a film that had a big influence on me, and I might talk about Skyfall on the channel because that also turns 10 this year. But this and Skyfall had a big impact on me, and a couple years prior, Tron Legacy also did. But this film, I think in particular, was something that I noticed about long takes. Like, I noticed that, a lot of sequences with Daniel Day-Lewis where the camera would slowly get into, focus, where it's slowly coming into him as, he's giving a speech. That was something that I was just, my mind was blown. And the symbolic nature of the cinematography, I'll get into that in a little bit, but it was just one of those films that had a big impact on me. And each time I watched it, I felt like I gained more and more knowledge. And it's a film that, I'm just going to say right off the bat, it's one of my favorite films of all time. Not even just because of that personal history of it really kind of making me notice cinematography, but also because it's a film that I feel like it does such a great job of the genre that it's in. I feel like movies that are based on true stories oftentimes feel like they try to overstuff things. They want to really kind of stuff every single thing about that person's life, and because of that, everything kind of feels diluted. But Tony Kushner is very smart. He focuses specifically just on the passing of the 13th Amendment and that period of Lincoln's life, and because of that, it gives the focus 100% on that and of the characters with what they're going through during that time, as well as the political turmoil and all the wheeling and dealings that go behind the scenes of trying to pass that. It's all very fascinating, and then this is also a film that really kind of made me focus on politics, because prior to this film, I really didn't focus on politics. Like, I didn't really know too much about it, but I felt like watching this film that I gained quite a bit of knowledge about it. I also found out about the term lawyer's dodge, which to this day I still use that term, but it's a film that, politically speaking, it's very interesting because it just kind of showcases that no matter the year, no matter how long time passes, sure, some things can change for sure, but there is a lot of things that the political wheeling and dealing doesn't really change. It just kind of goes by either a different name or kind of, goes under the rug, so to speak. So I find that to be quite fascinating, but it's also interesting to see that someone that to this day is considered very honorary and is someone that's considered a good person, tried to pass something by doing a lot of wheeling and dealing. So it really kind of shows that this film isn't really black and white, which I also think is quite fascinating. It gives these characters depth. It gives them the gray morals to really kind of showcase that. And I think that it also helps that it's very well acted. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis gives one of the best performances I've ever seen. I'm a huge fan of Daniel Day-Lewis. It stinks that he retired, but he gives one of the best performances I've ever seen, and I still stand by that. I said it 10 years ago, and I say it to this day. Every time I watch this film, I am engrossed by what I'm watching based on his performance alone. It is one of the best things you will ever see. I'm not even kidding. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a film that has many, many different characters, and every single person does their part. This is one of the best ensemble casts that I've seen, up there with the Green Mile, in my opinion, where every single person is perfectly cast. You even have some people that weren't popular 10 years ago, but now are, such as Jeremy Strong and Adam Driver. They're in this film. They have small bits, but they do a great job with what they're given. Other people that have more prominent roles, such as Sally Field, Tommy Lee Jones, they are excellent as well. Definitely worthy of their Oscar nominations. I think that they did an incredible job, and they really feel like three-dimensional characters because of all that they're giving, as well as Tony Kushner's writing. And speaking of Tony Kushner's writing, I wanted to talk about that now. He gives a very detailed screenplay. This is something that the vernacular of the dialogue is something that you definitely feel as though it's from that time period. It doesn't feel like it's 2012 dialogue. It feels like it is 1865 dialogue, and that's the highest praise possible that I can give. And he's backed up by not only giving all those detail-oriented, vernacular dialogue that, obviously is very important to the character Lincoln, but he's also backed up by a great production design, a great costume design, and great makeup. All of this combined really make for an immersive experience of feeling like you're being transported back in time to 1865. And that's, again, a very high compliment that I have to give to everyone involved. Spielberg's directing here is magnificent. But that goes without saying at this point. Spielberg is, at this point in his career, 10 years ago, he was a seasoned veteran. So it makes sense as to why he gives like one of the best directed films in my eyes. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, going full circle, the cinematography of this film is really quite something. I think that it's very symbolic. Like, you have it where the usage of color and lighting is very imperative. Early on in the film, you have usage of color that is kind of drained of primary colors, and the lighting is something that's very, very dark. But as the film progresses, and don't want to spoil anything, but as something happens in the final act that's kind of crowd-pleasing, if you will, the lighting and the usage of colors changes. There's a lot more color. Primary colors are becoming a lot more apparent, and the lighting gets a little bit overblown. This is obviously symbolism to really kind of showcase happiness. The serious nature of the film obviously changes to more a happy nature of the film. Now, don't get me wrong, this is still an overall very serious film, but it does have sprinkles of humor throughout, but especially towards the end, things get a little bit more at ease in terms of the tone of the film. And I think the cinematography does a great job of representing that. The cinematography also does a great job of not only just with that and the symbolism from, but I really love what it does in terms of having all the characters, the shots, they last like, a couple seconds here or there, but then when you focus on Daniel Day-Lewis's Lincoln, you have it where the camera has, a lot of long takes that start at like a wide angle shot and then slowly zoom in until you get really close to him. And I thought that was very effective because it really kind of matches the speeches that he's given. And not only that, but also shows the power that he has in the room and everything. So that was something I really liked. John Williams gives a typically great score. One of my favorites personally of his. I know some people think that it's very syrupy. I personally thought it was very fitting to everything that was given. And again, it's a film that's very immersive. You have great production design, costume design, makeup. For crying out loud, this is a film that's impeccable on the filmmaking front. I know some people think that the pacing's slow. I personally disagree. I think it's a very well-paced film. It's very stylish. It's a film that's apparently very historically accurate from what I've been reading up on. And it's a film that I personally would highly recommend. It might not be for everyone because some people might find it's boring. I think personally it's a great film. It's a great American film. It's just a great film in general. One of my favorite films of all time. And you know what? Screw it. Lincoln, for me personally, I will be giving a... So yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts on Lincoln down below. Maybe we'll get a 4K at some point of this film, but let me know your thoughts on Lincoln down below. I personally think it should have won Best Picture the year it came out. That's just me. Don't think Argo should have won, but again, that's just me. But let me know your thoughts, guys, on Lincoln. Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, with the subscription, notification bell, follow me on Letterboxd, and I will catch you guys later.